Hello, mate. You right?
Hello there. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, good. Well, I mean, obviously, as well as can be expected after last night's result, I suppose. And there's been a few comments off the back of that, hasn't there?
I mean, at the risk of repeating myself every week when we lose, it is about being patient and seeing where the season can build from. Plus, we've just played the top two of the championship with two of the best managers in the championship. So, with every injury under the sun.
Yeah, this is it. And obviously, Borgia out for another 3 games. But well, straight to it, Morgan. We've got Jaimie on the line who's joined us. This is a Beyond the Barclay special, Beyond the South Stand. Yeah, Jaimie, welcome on board.
Hi, Jaimie.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we?
Very well.
Good in sunny London.
And also sunny here in Wales. We've got a storm coming in apparently tomorrow.
Jaimie, it's a pleasure to speak to you again. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem at all, Jez.
Straight off the bat, me and Jaimie have known each other for 15 years, I reckon. Back at the
too long, many would say, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I've known him for 15 minutes, and it feels like that.
You get less for murder, mate.
Yeah. So we worked together at the wonderful establishment that is Play Football. You was the probably manager of the year several times, weren't you, at the Swansea site?
I was, mate. Back in our younger days, mate, we could move a bit more. I remember those times when me and you were a formidable upfront partnership on Selhurst Park on that day, remember?
Do you know what? I was speaking to Morgan earlier on, and that was one of the things I did mention was our little soiree at Selhurst Park. That was with that was a BT Sport special, wasn't it? That we'd got offered an opportunity to go and play against another team, 11-a-side match. It was quite the experience, wasn't it?
Were you a fox in the box, Jez?
Well, I'll let Jaimie talk to you about my exploits on the football pitch.
I don't think he got that far. He was more of an anchor man in midfield, spraying the ball around, I think, as I remember correctly. Jez, wasn't it?
It was, and I think I think I started in the role of, and may I say, self-appointed role of manager of the team, didn't I? And it soon become apparent that my skills would be required on the pitch, so I quickly stripped off and made a sub, didn't I, and got myself on. So,
you did, mate. It was good. It was good times. It was good times.
It was. And so what you've been up to since then?
I took a little bit of a career change, mate. I went from working within the football industry, as I had for 12 years, as you know, and I wanted a job which had zero responsibility. You know what it's like working in that industry, mate. You used to have phone calls 24 hours a day, just busy. And then I just got a job as a delivery driver for Amazon. And the change was profound. I mean, you know, my phone didn't used to go off for 5 hours, 6 hours a day. It was very, very strange, and I did enjoy it. And then naturally, with my history, and same as you, Jez, found my way back into the management setting naturally, and I'm now sort of a general manager for a company that have multiple sites. So obviously, I travel around, manage the sites, everything else. So yeah, good, mate. I'm enjoying it, to be fair. So it's mainly working from home, but a bit of traveling, a little bit different. And no Mark Thompson on the phone 24 hours a day, which is very welcome, as you can imagine, from what we used to have all the time, mate, you know?
Well, let's hope he's not listening to this.
I will say, I have hit record, so yeah, I mean, I could... Yeah.
Can I get on record? I do love Mark. He was a great manager, but he was very, very...
Keen,
yeah, to say the least. But I did like Mark, and I do miss him. So yeah, I'll just get
I think
on record.
I'll be honest. I think he would take that comment tongue in cheek as well. Anyway, so.
Yeah, he would. It was meant tongue in cheek, of course, mate. But yeah, mate. Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Mark well, and I think it'd be remiss for me not to say he helped me a lot in my career. So, and likewise with a lot of other people, I'd say.
It was as simple as he was the beating heart of that company, mate. It was as simple as that, you know. And when the changes made, and obviously he was sort of moved around, this is where things started to go downhill for me. But you know, it is what it is. Change is obviously always happening around us, and sometimes it's for the best, sometimes it's not, and we move forward, mate, don't we?
We do. So, I mean, jumping into obviously the reason we're here is to discuss the upcoming game at Carrow Road, Norwich versus Swansea City. So, Morgan, I'll let you pose the first question.
Okay, no worries. So just out of for the audience at home, Jaimie, how long have you supported Swansea, and how did you kind of get into them? I know it's a bit of a divergent, but we haven't asked that question yet. So.
No, that's fine, mate. So since I was 19, so 2 years ago, joking, obviously, and I'm 40 now. So I grew up sort of towards the Cardiff Way, but in the Rhondda Valleys.
Oh, whereabouts? Sorry, whereabouts in the
Rhondda? In a place called Torrevel.
Okay, I know the Rhondda because my granddad was from Merthyr, so I have a little bit.
Yeah.
Of knowledge of that area of the world.
Watch your wallet. No, I'm joking. Grew up in Torrevel. It was sort of a bit of a mix between Cardiff and Swansea. I mean, Cardiff was closer geographically, but from a football's perspective in the Rhondda Valleys, there seemed to be Swansea City had more of a link with the Valleys rather than Cardiff City did. So back in the day, obviously, I was playing for Torrevel, and Torrevel had forged a link with Swansea City, and then we used to sort of go down there. And I guess naturally, had more of an affiliation with Swansea for that reason than we did with Cardiff. So then when I was 19 then, in 2004, moved to university in Swansea, and my mother moved down at the same time. So I guess I moved down there when I was 19 and never sort of went back to Torrevel again. Then when I finished university, I stuck with Swansea. And I just sort of used to watch them. It was those days back in the old stadium, the Vet. You've probably seen it on in many places, whereas it was, like a classic, not very nice stadium compared to what they have now. And I remember just going down there all the time. I didn't have a season ticket back in those days because I was always working away. But then when I got more involved in with the company myself and Jez were talking about earlier, we obviously had links to Swansea City. They didn't quite have the facilities they do these days, obviously from the Premier League money. So they used to train up and play football. And obviously we used to get close to them. I remember seeing some memories on Facebook the other day, which was a training session where Roberto Martinez was the manager, Joe Allen was there, and it was just all sorts of old pictures on the pitches, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, then I became even closer with the Swans when I took over, when I was general manager then of Play Football. And I also took over as secretary of the Swansea Senior Football League. So I was in charge of 11-side football in Swansea as well.
Oh, wow.
And obviously, Swansea have always stuck close, to be fair, with the local football scene. And they used to let us use the stadium, for all our finals, and let us use their training ground. And obviously in those days they had a lot more money. Yeah. So obviously they've always held a bit of a special place in my heart. So I had a season ticket then all through the Premier League years, and for the last 4 years since obviously they finished. So I obviously I've loved Swansea for years. Obviously we've had our ups and downs, same as yourselves guys, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, as long as we don't, I think both of us are stable, and I think as long as we stay stable, that would be the main thing. You don't want to start dropping down divisions and everything else, do you? But obviously, as long as you've got a solid base, I think you can improve and look to push your way up the table. But it's a competitive league, boys, as you know. Yeah. So it's not as easy anymore, is it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be the last few seasons. Just going to move on to the actual question then. Thank you for that. So talking about your style of play, you've got a rich history of playing attractive possession-based football. I mean, most recently with our man Russ, as you know. How do you feel the current team compares to the iconic Swansea Way of the past?
It's not quite the same, is it? I think it has the potential to be as silky as the Swans were back when we started the Swansea Way, when our nickname was Swansea Alona back in those days. But we're not quite there. I would say it's a work in progress. We have talented enough wingers and wing backs that will overlap and cause some damage. But I think with the squad limitations in terms of numbers in defence and midfield, it's been hard to sort of integrate that style of play. I
Mm.
mean, when Pep Guardiola, for example, came into Man City, came into Bayern Munich, you can't just implement that style of play. You have to have the correct players to play that way of football, don't you? And it's all about having the right pieces on the board, even as far as having a goalkeeper who can use his feet and get involved in the passing. So, Luke Williams, his style of play is about possession and then attacking when there's some space, which is close to the Swansea way, but not quite there yet. But, we hope that, like I said, we can get back to that, because I always believe, like being a Man United fan as well, back in the 90s and early 2000s, having a style of play and a way and a philosophy is important for a club. And I think any manager that comes in, any players come in, they should come in with the knowledge that they are going to adapt to that philosophy. And, like I said, I think a lot of clubs have gone wrong because they've had a style of play, they've had a philosophy, and then a manager's come in and just changed it out of nowhere, So,
we all know too well the last few seasons, don't we, Jez, that we had that from another Welshman, Silky Webber. But we sort of dropped off a little bit after his sort of tenure. I think we lost our way a little bit, if I'm going to be honest, and we're sort of gradually picking the pieces back up again. Much like I'd say a similar path to you guys, right? Like I've always maintained, I've always liked Swansea, but I think we're very similar in how things have been over the past few years with the comings and goings of different managers and styles of football. So I'd like to think that you guys can get back to what you did before, and hopefully we can as well.
I think you're right, Morgan, and both you are, Jaimie, as well. I think the philosophy and the stability, I suppose, is such a massive thing in football. And we had a relatively decent manager in Fark, Daniel Fark. Guys, can you hear that crackling?
Yeah.
Jaimie, you still there?
Yeah, still here, mate. I can hear him.
Don't know what that crackling was, but we'll crack on. But yeah, I think we had that, and I think the problem was it was sustainable in the Championship and successful in the Championship. But then as soon as we got to the Premier League, we didn't have the funds, I suppose, to ever compete. We couldn't do an Ipswich where they spent 130 million, or a Nottingham Forest. Likewise, we had to kind of do it in a. I think Stuart Webber always alluded to this, that his hands were tied a little bit, but what he wanted to do was sort of implement the club, so to speak, and make sure that there was a club still there in 25 years, and work on behind the scene. Like Colney, our training ground, Jaimie, is unrecognisable from the moment that Stuart Webber and his team walked through the door. But I suppose in a roundabout way, my question is, to you. Is that how you see Swansea now then? Have you done the same sort of thing? Have you worked on the behind the scenes? And is that, could it be that now you've done that, we could see a way forward for Swansea to get back up again?
Yeah, and I think so. I think you have to establish a solid foundation. And I always think that these days, compared to back in the old days, people were too quick to are too quick to fire a manager. Like I said, people don't get time anymore. It's not just a case of coming in and winning games. Like Premier League teams will come in and get big salmon just to win 10 games or whatever. I think you have to if you're going to have a manager, I think you have to invest in a manager, because that manager would obviously bring a style of play and also would bring in players to suit the way of playing as well. Gain a rapport. And I think that. Obviously, Russell Martin, your old boy, was obviously a manager. He played a certain way. And obviously Luke Williams, our current manager, was obviously part of that ilk as well of Russell's coaching staff. So I think that we've at least now had some continuity for a little while now. And although our run isn't the best, we're not terrible. All right, so we lost the derby, which is a sensitive subject, which I'm sure we'll go on to in a little bit. But I think it sets a solid foundation for us to build on. Obviously, we can see what's going right, what's going wrong. January transfer window now, see if we can bring in a few players, and then in the summer, see where we're at. Because I think, like I said, we're sort of mid-table teams at the moment, but it's just as close to get a couple of players in and start pushing, or a late surge into the playoffs or towards the playoffs. I don't think is, like I said, a team can hit form at the right time and you can go forward. So I think that we're there or thereabouts. We just need a little bit more on top to start competing up towards that top,
Yeah, and for me that probably answers the next question, but we'll answer it. Should ask it anyway. I mean, Luke Williams, former Norwich City youth player, by the way.
Yeah.
So he's got his links to Norwich as well. But what's your take on the job he's doing, and who are the key players within that setup currently?
So I actually like what Luke Williams has done with the limited resources available, and with the squad. It does seem like we have fallen a little short at times. In my opinion, we're a few signings short of the playoffs, probably in defence, I would say. But overall, I think Luke Williams has done okay, if I'm 100% honest. Obviously, there's no one, I see the blogs and I see his Twitter and everything else. And we've all seen over the years when everybody's calling for a manager's head and stuff. And that doesn't seem to be the case. I think the Swans fans a number of years ago when we were in the Premier League and they wanted us to bounce back, there was an expectation, and it's suddenly like, okay, right, we're mid-table, we need to. Now I think the fans have rightfully so lowered their expectations, which I think we all have to do. We don't want to, but we all have to do, and I think that's probably helped us. For me, key players for the team, I would have to say Grimes, stalwart, captain, been with us now double-figure years, the man from Exeter. And he's Mr. Reliable, Franco as well, like a little Rottweiler. We've always needed a player like him since the days of Ferry Bode. You probably wouldn't remember him. He's been an absolute sensation. So, no, I think that those two are the main men. I think you can have them in the middle of the park doing what they're doing, and like a solid foundation, solid defence. And I think you can go from there. So I think for us at the moment, I think they are the two main players for me at the moment. And hopefully, like I said, we can fit in some people around them in order to sort of push us into where we need to get to sort of push up the table,
Yeah. I think the point you made there about expectation is really interesting, because I think, and Jez, you'll probably agree, we're in a very similar position like now. Like we've been, this is our third season back in the Championship, and we're sort of bobbing around, okay? But I think then our expectation was, we need to go straight back up again. And I think it's not as easy as perhaps it was for, 3 or 4 seasons ago. Teams have cottoned on to how to kind of play against, possession-based football. So I think it's something that fan bases are notoriously bad at having is that level of expectation to just go straight back up again. When you've been feasting on the riches of the Premier League, it can make you a bit fat. So I think that's a really good point. I mean, would you say, Jaimie, that your fan base has that high expectation, or have you sort of tempered those?
They definitely used to. Obviously, when they came down to the Premier League, I guess it's hard not to, because we weren't in the Premier League for one season. We were in there for multiple seasons. So I guess when they came down, we still had some big name players on big wages. And I guess the expectation was that we're paying these players the wages we expect to go up. And, we haven't been a million miles away. I mean, we got to the playoff final in 2020. We got to a year before with that. So we haven't been mid-table the entire time. We've sort of been up there. We've had a couple of late runs towards the playoffs. But I think whereas I don't know whether everybody's just lost a little bit of faith in it. Whereas when you're up there and you're at least pushing, expectations are high and this, that, the other. But it's just like since then, I don't know. I think everybody's sort of accepted it, and I think they've accepted it from the sense of the owners of the club. There's issues there, whereas they won't put the money in. They haven't wanted to be part of it. They haven't really wanted to spend, and obviously money's been tight. So I guess, unless you got a sort of Roman Abramovich, etc., I don't think you could really have those expectations, because same as yourselves, probably we'll have nowhere near the budget in the Championship that other clubs will have, especially those big clubs coming down. These days they have such big income, don't they, dropping down from the Premier League, whereas we don't have the parachute payments anymore. It's hard to compete. It's very, very hard to compete. So I think, and for good reason as well, the expectation has come down, which I think relieves a little bit of pressure because, if you're the player, you live in the city and the pressure's all around you and there's an expectation, you can expect they're better than they actually are. So I think we've tempered the expectation a bit, which I think helps, in my opinion. It helps us be more realistic about where we are, what we're doing, and asks us the honest question of, right, what's the next step? What's the next step? Rather than, right, let's take the step at a time, rather than just thinking, yeah, we'll just go straight up to the Premier League. No, the league's just too competitive, in my opinion,
Yeah, certainly. So I think just moving on, unless Jez, you want to say something else?
No, crack on.
So this is the juicy one, Jaimie. Rivalry with Cardiff. So South Wales derby, fierce rival in football. How important is that fixture to Swansea fans? And what's your favourite derby memory?
Like our counterparts in Swansea, they probably agree. It's always the first fixture I look out for on the calendar when they come out, so I can sort of see if I've got any trips that I need to rearrange, etc. But it's so intense. It always has been, but it is so special. I got so many moments to choose from over the years. The 4-0 away win was a very, very special one for me, which was when we had the first double over them. And then the following year, the double with the 99th minute winner, which obviously, the fans went crazy. That was an interesting night on Twitter and Facebook, on the banter pages. It was, I think some of them were going to meet up and have a scrap. It got that bad. But going back in the days, that I was at fixtures where, chairs were being thrown and, the last South Wales derby that they had in Ninian Park was a special one as well. It was a 2-2 draw and it was a controversial result, but I'll just leave that as that one. But yeah, if I had to choose between those three, I would definitely say the 4-0 away win for the first double, because first double ever against Cardiff and a 4-0 win up in Legoland. It has to be special, boys, doesn't it?
So when just for listeners at home, when was the 4-0 victory? When was that?
So it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did a double over them. But yeah, obviously now the first double they've beaten us now on the weekend. So yeah, I haven't got too much to say about that now.
We've all been there. I mean, it hasn't happened for us for about 15 years, so we don't need to worry about it really.
No.
I think in that sense, again, there's a parallel there, isn't it? Like, I mean, my question, a follow-up question to you, Jaimie, would be: Should Wrexham get promoted? I mean, is that then like a trio of Welsh clubs that are, that are kind of going to be right? I imagine a rivalry with Wrexham just isn't a thing, is it?
It's definitely not, lads. And even a rivalry with Newport isn't really a thing. I mean, there's a deep hatred there, footballing wise, between Cardiff and Swansea from, which just isn't really there with our generation, but it was in generations before. So the old guard, they mainly hated each other, where they used to be scrapping. Back when we used to play Cardiff, they used to throw bricks to the buses. There used to be bubble games. They used to bust the fans in and out of the stadium. There used to be police on every bridge on the way up the M4. It just doesn't have the same intensity as it does, probably because they've cracked down big time, haven't they, on football hooliganism, and it's maybe not as socially acceptable. Obviously, they put the games a certain time, so people haven't got time to drink all day in the pub.
Yeah.
It's just one of them. But like I said, Cardiff and Swansea is a historic rivalry for footballing reasons. Obviously, I think there was always a little bit of animosity with Swansea and Cardiff because Cardiff were the capital. They seemed to get the best of everything. Swansea didn't used to. But like I said, when it comes to Newport and obviously Wrexham, I just don't think there's that same level of intensity, especially with the North and South Wales thing. It's not really a thing, because those guys, in terms of Wales, those guys up north of Wrexham, they're some of the best supporters for Wales of anyone I've ever seen. I mean, all the games are played in Cardiff. Those guys will track down the train 5-6 hours to come down to the matches. So there's never really been that need for a level of hatred. I would actually welcome Wrexham into it. But there's talk now that Wrexham, Swansea, Cardiff, Newport are going to be playing in the Welsh
That's
Cup.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, do you want to expand on that?
So essentially, obviously, these Welsh clubs, they play in the English league, and the only way to get into Europe is through the English means. But the FAW have offered now that the main clubs can compete in one of the FAW competitions, which would mean European qualification through the Welsh, through Welsh representation. I mean, for the likes of Swansea, Cardiff, and obviously Wrexham, who obviously their shareholders we know they are.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very attractive proposition for those guys because, okay, they might be in League One or they might be in the Championship, but are they better than probably some of the teams from Estonia and San Marino and these sorts of places? They probably are and would probably fancy themselves to get into the group stages. And when you sort of get into the group stages of European football, you're talking big money there, aren't you? So that could be an attractive proposition, but I don't know if I agree with that because that's playing the system, isn't it? I mean, if you're a Welsh team who's playing in the Welsh league setup like TNS or whatever, and you're a good team, and then suddenly your European place could be taken by these clubs, but they don't play in your league. There's a conversation there on whether that's fair.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but it's good. I think it's good for Welsh football, though. I get it as a whole, just because I think that maybe this like investment with Wrexham and this league could be something that just adds a little bit of extra to the grassroots of the country. And obviously, you've then got in terms of international football, it helps the Welsh team out a little bit more. I would say so. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad thing. It just has to be handled well.
I think so, mate. Yeah, I agree. And with the World Cup, hopefully we can qualify next year. Like I said, roll on, isn't it? And let's make football better for Wales as a country, and I guess for our teams that we support in this country.
Well, let's just touch on the international team a little bit there, Jaimie. Then, so obviously, I know you're a devout Wales fan for obvious reasons. I've seen you go to some international games, both home and abroad. I mean, who's the sort of the standout players within that Wales setup at the moment, and who you got any sort of players coming through the systems at either any of the Welsh teams or the English teams that are going to make the mark?
You know what it's like with Wales, mate. Like I said, we had I would say one of the top 5 players in the world in Gareth Bale, and he always performed for Wales. He performed for Wales better than he performed for Real Madrid, as you can tell. He always wanted to play, and I guess we always felt like we could beat anybody on our day if you've got a player of that quality in your squad. We had obviously Aaron Ramsey as well, so we had some big players, and I would say is definitely the golden age for Wales. But I think we fell away a bit. I obviously, as you alluded to, Jez, I do like an away trip with Wales. I remember 2018, I went out to Los Angeles to the Rose Bowl, famous stadium where they played the World Cup final in 1994. And I went out there for a friendly. Wales randomly played a friendly against Mexico as a tune-up game for Mexico to play in the 2018 World Cup in Russia. So I remember going out there. I went out to the World Cup as well in Qatar, watched Wales. And how we performed in the World Cup, I just felt a change for Wales of, like I said, we need to be refreshed. The golden generation are not getting any younger. And, we haven't performed as well. Rob Page, I wasn't a big fan of his when he was the manager. And obviously we fell off a bit, with Bale retiring, some of the older ones playing. But to be fair, we got some good players. I mean, Bellamy's come in now, he's unbeaten. We won our little group in the Nations League. So now for qualifying, I'm feeling pretty confident. Players wise, obviously we got some aging boys, but I really like Brennan Johnson. Obviously playing regularly in the Premier League, as you can imagine. He's decent. We've got sort of Daniel James, we all know about him. Harry Wilson playing all the time. Joe Allen is still hanging in there, Wow. And then obviously we've got We got Mr. Reliable, our vice captain as well, Ben Davis, who's obviously been featuring regularly for Spurs over the years.
Yeah.
Nico Williams, Joe Rodon. So a lot of our players you'll probably see more in the Championship rather than the Premier League. But at least the boys are playing regular, regular football week in, week out, month in, month out. And like I said, Bellamy has got a style of play. And we're doing well. So I think the future looks bright with the Welsh international team, in my opinion, boys.
That's good. It's good to hear, because I know you did fall away over the years. I mean, because I've said it before in previous podcasts, but my granddad was from Wales, so I get to support two teams in the international tournaments. I usually prefer to watch Wales because there's less pressure.
Yeah.
And it's just about having fun. And I think that is what football's all about. So I really love watching Wales play. So I'm really glad they're kind of getting back on track and on the way again, so I can actually enjoy international tournament football once more.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly. World Cup next year, boys. That's what it'll all be about. We all have a World Cup, don't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely, don't we? And I think hopefully Robson Kanu can come out of retirement and score his goal again. That'd be
fantastic.
Yeah. Just forget his Zimmer frame on the go. That's all, isn't it?
Okay, so moving on then to connections with Norwich. Several players have represented both clubs over the years. Who stands out most to you, and what are your thoughts on those shared links?
Well, I've been having a little research into this. So I actually didn't realise that one of our stalwarts, Kyle Norton, played for Norwich City. Did you know that?
Yeah. So he was on loan with us. I think it was the season we went up.
Yeah.
The first time under Lambert. So that was what, probably 20, help me out, Morgan, maybe 2012, something like that.
2011, 2012.
Yeah. So he's been around for a long time now, and I think, as you say, he's certainly been at Swansea for a long time. He's still playing, isn't he?
Yeah. Just about, mate. Just about. But like I said, his influence in the dressing room will be the main thing that obviously keeps us, his contract alive. So yeah, I love him. I think he's always been great for us since he played for us. Yeah. I think Martin Olsson as well has been one of my favourite ones, who came from you guys. Owain Tudor-Jones as well, and Adrian Forbes, if you want to go back a little bit as well. But I think the standout player for me, and it's mainly because of what he brought to the team. I was a big fan of Leroy Fer.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say Leroy.
Yeah. He just worked his backside off for the team, and he gave us that quality that we needed, Yeah. And I loved Leroy Fer. Mm-hmm. And even though he didn't play for us, Russell Martin will always be remembered for obviously for getting us the double over Cardiff,
Yeah.
And that's my personal thought of that. So I love Norwich, to be fair. Yeah. We used to, when we were in the Premier League era, we used to have used to be a right bogey team for us. Used to beat us all the time. And I always remember Grant Holt on Twitter giving it a bit. He always used to go in, and he used to hate Swansea for some reason. And he always used to give it a big one on Twitter against our fans. And he used to say, one guy I know, he was giving him a bit on Twitter, and he was a bit bald, and he hadn't been to Turkey for a transplant. And I remember Grant Holt jumping on and calling him a fat pig or whatever, and saying that the tide had gone out in his head and stuff like that. There's always been a good bit of banter, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, I think two clubs, similar positions where we are. There's always been a respect there. Yeah. We've both punched above our weights, I think, and I think there is, and there will always be a respect there.
Yeah. I mean, just touching on that Leroy Fer comment. I mean, I think when we got Fer in, I remember that transfer window, Ricky Campbell-Spinkle. I always laugh when I say his name. It's not his fault. Hooper, Fer, and I don't know if you felt that way, Jez. I was like, you know what, we're signing some really good players. And for us, I mean, he was okay. I think when we went down and he left us to go to you guys, I think there was a little bit of animosity. Well, animosity is the wrong word, but I think there was a few of our fans were like, well, you're a mercenary jumping ship. But he had a few good seasons with Swansea, did he not?
He did. He was great for us, honestly. He was really, really good. And I do miss it. I do miss him, to be fair. I really, really rated him as a player. And, we had a really, really good player from you guys. I'll admit that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think some honourable mentions then, who we haven't mentioned yet. Ryan Bennett was with you for a bit.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really good defender for us. I was really disappointed when he left. I thought he was, someone we bought from Peterborough, I believe.
Yeah, it was Peterborough, yeah.
Yeah, and actually did a really good job for us in that at the time when we needed him. Adrian Forbes back in the day.
Yeah.
Has since gone on to coach. He was with Luton Town for a long time in their coaching team, but he's now a manager in the USA. I can't remember the team. Someone Phoenix, but I can't remember who it is. And his brother actually still plays for Hitchin Town. Funny enough, is the team that I watch. And with a few others as well. I mean, I don't know whether Chris Llewellyn was ever he never played for Swansea, but he worked in the Swans Academy. So obviously with your links, Jaimie, I don't know if you ever met Chris.
I met Chris, a few times, mate. Yeah, he's very much alive around the football circles around Swansea and South Wales, mate.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, do you know what? He was someone that had a lot of potential at Norwich, and actually, he probably had the misfortune, I suppose, of promoting someone else's career at Norwich, and that was Paul McVeigh, because Chris Llewellyn was seen to be the player that was going to be in that position, but sadly got injured, and then Paul McVeigh came in and essentially stole his place, which I'm sure he'd always be thankful for. I mean, you got Primi. I'm not going to try and pronounce his first name. Primislav Placheta.
Oh yeah. Did he go to Swansea?
He went to Swansea before he went to Oxford, I believe.
Oh, I'd sort of forgotten about him.
And Corey Smith.
Yeah, Corey Smith. Yeah.
He again a very one of our heroes in the League One campaign that, when we went through the leagues from League One to the Premier League. I don't actually know if he ever played in the Premier League for us, but he certainly did play back then. And Marley Watkins.
Oh yeah, Marley Watkins.
Blast from the past.
Yeah, certainly.
There's been a few down the years, and Tony Roberts, who's currently our goalkeeper coach, also coached at Swansea as well.
He did, yeah, he certainly did. I didn't realise there were so many. You've done your research, Jez.
Yeah,
fair play.
he has, hasn't he? It's quite surprising.
To be honest, it's just all in my head. I haven't researched anything. I just know it. I'm joking. Of course
You've researched it.
Chat GPT's had an hammering by Jez today.
Yeah, if only you knew, Jaimie, eh?
Yeah, you know it, brother. You know it.
Yeah.
So I guess the sort of before we do the random question of the week, which I love. Last question from me then. We sort of touched on it a little bit and you sort of alluded to a few things, but obviously you were in the Premier League not so long ago. What do you think, from your opinion, needs to happen to Swansea to get back up to the top line?
Well, I think the first thing that needed to happen was a change of ownership, which we've recently had. We've literally just had it. So we don't really know the extent of how it's going to affect us, but you'd like to hope that any change is positive, isn't it? So I think it's a positive move in the right direction. I think to get us there, aside from the obvious investment and bringing in quality and depth to the team, I think it's about keeping the fans on side and the fans engaged.
Yeah.
If the fans are still going to the games, they're still buying the tickets, they're still sort of buying the merch, they're still buying the food, obviously that keeps the coffers. And I think that, historically, it's always been a great relationship between the club and the fans. But I think recently, the recent owners, the lack of communication from them, and it felt that they were just in it for the money, has sort of made the relationship, I would call the word, tense at times.
Yeah. I mean, just for listeners as well, who were the previous ownership? Because I thought it was an American consortium, but I mean, that might have been a long time ago now.
It was Kaplan, the American consortium, but they own DC United as well. And obviously they seem to put more of their money into DC United. But we've had a bit of a change of ownership. And like I said, Andy Coleman has the right ideas in place to keep the engagement there. Now it's just a case of seeing how it plays out and just need to see it happen. Then obviously with the club in sync, the Jack Army all together, the 12th man, I think, will be well and truly alive, I think. Do you know what I mean? But, it remains to be seen. But I think you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's reason for optimism. And I think from our point of view, we look at it as, it can't get worse. Now it's time that, I don't know, it's always nice to have a little bit of optimism around the club, isn't it? Everybody working together, everybody in sync. And I think if we can get that, then I think, we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's something that Me and Jez can probably agree on, like, back in 2018-19 season, where we came out of nowhere and won the league. There was like there were silly little videos of players having to like spin a wheel and having to forfeit doing something like cleaning Daniel Farke's car. And the groundswell of optimism from the fan base, I think, got the team over the line a few times. I mean, certainly, like, pound for pound, like, our players who we brought in weren't necessarily that great. I mean, but Buendia and Pookie aside, but like, I think, like you said, it's just why this podcast exists. Like, fan groundswell can really get a club over the line and get the wins and get everyone sort of together and heading in the right direction. I think Norwich the last few seasons have really lacked that, and I think that kind of goes to show where we are, where we've been in the league, and how things have kind of, like, I guess, went a little bit awry. I don't know if you agree with that, Jez.
No, I completely agree. I think, and again, it's that change of philosophy that we were. I wouldn't say we were forced. It wasn't forced upon us, but with Stuart Webber's sideward kind of movement towards the end of his Norwich career, I suppose we were kind of like, we needed a new philosophy that we could afford, I suppose, is the best way of putting it. A new way of thinking, new way of doing things, and hopefully it'll work. But for me, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be something where we need to be a little bit patient with, because I've already seen people going, oh well, Shinak's no good, Cordoba's no good. These players might not be good now, but we've seen it before where season 2, season 3 of these players, season 2, season 3 of these players, we do see it then. We do see that rise to fame is probably the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean. So in a nutshell, I suppose a bit of patience, really, which football fans don't really have these days.
Yeah, and that's a different topic for another day. But yeah. I think that's probably spot on. I mean, Jaimie, like, from your perspective, and we sort of touched on it earlier, but generally now, do you think the fan base is more patient and willing to see where this goes?
I think there's a lot more optimism around the club. I think the owners were there for many, many years. They didn't really put a lot in. They didn't communicate. But we don't know. We don't know the extent of the new owners happening. But we look at it as it's a new owner, and there's a case of, well, there's something different. Let's see how it goes. So I think there is a lot of optimism around the club, and I think that as long as you have a harmony and you have everybody on side and you have everybody fighting for the same goal, I think, like, if there's a feel-good factor around the club, I think that takes you places. Because a lot of the squads that have gone on and won the league and gone promoted in the playoff and had late runs, they're never the best squads.
Yeah,
you've had multi-million-pound squads that have gone down from the league, and they might pay the money, but it's like I said, it's not like Real Madrid Galacticos around you. Like I said, it's, sometimes you just get the best player, the best team, and a feel-good factor around the club. Everybody's enjoying their football, and suddenly anything can happen, boys,
Yeah, I think that it pains me to say this, but that's what happened with Ipswich the last few seasons. They've used that fan momentum and built up behind what's his name? I can't remember. McKenna. Behind McKenna to sort of like push up into the Premier League, and they've done. You know what? Fair play to them. They've made a fist of things recently, and probably a bit better than what we have in recent years. But like you said, the fan groundswell is really important in keeping them on side.
Yeah, 100% agree, lads.
Okay.
Morgan, your famous random question of the week, please.
Just clearing my throat. Random question of the week. Do you like that?
I love that.
Good. So if you were in a theme park, and we're going to remove the roller coaster because I don't want to hear it, but if you could choose a ride that represents your the current season, what ride would it be and why?
I would say the pirate ship, because of the constant up and downs, and you don't know where you are, and you just have a churning and you're knot in your stomach most of the time. I would say that would be my choice of a ride.
Okay. What about you, Jez?
Well, I just wanted to expand on the pirate ship concept, because he's saying that the club's run by pirates, or
leg beat.
Yeah.
you asking the same question to me, Morgan?
I am.
Wow. I probably should have thought about this a little bit more. I reckon what's that one where you go in and it's all the mirrors and it's a bit like the Ghost Ride, I suppose.
Funhouse, like Pat Sharp's Funhouse.
Yeah, Funhouse, without sort of thinking too much about Pat Sharp, I suppose. I think, that sort of where you go in and all of the ghouls and the ghosts appear. And I think the ghouls and the ghosts of the FA, current, the regulatory committee or whatever they want to call it.
Do we get in trouble for saying these things?
No. No, well, I don't know, maybe, but bring it on. They're the ghosts and the ghouls, and I think, it's a bit dark in there, so sometimes you trip up and people get injured, and maybe that's looking too much into an analogy, but yeah, I certainly think we've had a bit of a scary season, so yeah, the whatever you call it, the Ghost Ride, it would be mine.
That's very deep and philosophical.
Thanks.
Very. I'm impressed.
Mine would be the Ladybirds.
Go on, why?
Just thought it was a witty answer. Because it's a bit shit and it doesn't go very fast.
As long as it's not the Bluebirds, Morgan.
Well, yeah, I'd be very offended. I'd be logging off it.
Right, thanks so much, Jaimie. It's been an absolute pleasure. Are you going to the game? I know it's a long way, but
I'm not, mate. I'm unfortunately away, which you'd be very surprised about. But I'll be away, mate, exploring a new country in Europe that I'm trying to go through the full list. So I'm going to Tirana, Albania, I am, mate.
Oh, you did say, yeah. Well, I hope you have a lovely time. And don't get too drunk.
Thanks, lads. What's your score predictions?
It's as if you know what the next question was going to be.
Yeah.
You've done this before. I would. Do you know what? I would take a draw now if I was offered it, given our current form and injury hit list. Let's go with a 1-1 with a late goal for us.
Your predictions have been so off recently.
I know.
I said 2-0 to Leeds last night.
You did?
Yeah. So my prediction is going to be 10-0 Norwich. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich.
Yeah.
Okay, interested. Jaimie?
2-0 or not 2-0? That is the question.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, Jez. I agree with you. 1-1, mate. I mean, Swans have lost each of their last 3 away league games. And obviously we haven't lost 4 since March 2023, so hopefully we'll be avoiding that. But I don't think we expect to go to Norwich and win. I'm going to go for 1-1, mate. I think 1-1 would be a score that both teams will be happy with, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It stops the rot a little bit, doesn't it, for both teams? So that's that's good. Finally, Jaimie, is there anyone you want to give a little shout out to or plug anything?
No, mate, I'm all good. Like I said, obviously I do want to give a shout out to my friend Owen Davis, who helped me a bit with some of the questions. And like I said, I really appreciate coming on, guys, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And Jez, me and you probably need to catch up properly, mate, offline. Do you know what I mean? Because it's been too long, my friend.
It's been far too long, mate. And it'd be nice to perhaps if you're ever sort of in the London area or if I'm ever sort of South Wales, which you never know.
We've got a Carnarvon trip.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what part of Carnarvon in Wales is Wales. Yeah.
Is it Carnarvon or Carmarthen?
Carnarvon, yeah.
That's North Wales, that is.
Yeah. So we can skirt through.
Yeah. Go that way, I
can go and see some of my family.
Yeah. I think we could have the Beyond the Barclay tour of Wales. That would be I think that would be well received, and definitely.
Sounds good, lads.
And on that note, if everyone would like to follow us on social media, please do so. We are on Facebook, Instagram and X. And if you'd like to get involved with the show, please email Beyond the Barclay.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoy the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like me to cover, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the Ball City.